Bringing up. He's gonna bring mine today to actually just show how I get flip through the agenda packet and scroll.
Pretty good. And you?
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We would like to start with our resolutions for the evening. And start it right off with Mr. Tina. Oops.
Resolved that the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of April 3rd, 2025 are hereby accepted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the building inspector's justice court and treasurer's April 2025 reports are hereby accepted.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I'm gonna be saying opposed. But it just
It's new.
that's well,
What are we doing over
I start, I stop, I'm inconsistent. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Resolved that the warrants for April 2025 in the amount of $441,552.73 for general fund and $148,499.10 for capital fund are hereby approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the village clerk treasurer is hereby directed to publish and post a notice of public hearing to be held on Thursday, June 5th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Village Hall for the modification of, is that a channel?
Chapter.
Oh, chapter. 51 alarm code, police fire alarm.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the village clerk treasurer is hereby directed to publish and post a notice of public hearing to be held on Thursday, June 5th, 2025 at 5 p.m. at the Village Hall for the special exception application for the Sunset Theater.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the purchase of 3 laptops for Rogers Beach in the amount of $3,290 to be paid out of A61 BD 0.2 equipment.
Right.
Sorry, one second. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Resolved to amend the August 1st, 2024 resolution to the following. William Donahue is hereby authorized to graciously donate in place of Veterans Memorial in the Military Appreciation Park in the Village Marina to be 3 foot wide, 3 foot above grade, and 16 inches deep, gray stone, with the inscription of a quote from quote, "The Man in the Arena," speech by Roosevelt dedicated to all veterans, and being unveiled on August 15th, 2025, the anniversary of World War II signing of the armistice. Well, I'll let it get second if it's going to be seconded, but I'll be
Okay.
voting against this.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's that's the way we are.
uncommon that we do that,
Not
so
usual that
kind of
happens. to us.
relatively new to us.
Do I have a second?
I'm going to vote no as well.
Okay.
Yes.
We have a second.
No.
Okay.
If I may just say,
Should we, since we seem to have 3 no's, I think it's only fair that Mr. Donahue know which way we're going. So if you would second it, and then we have 3 no's and it's voted.
then we do the vote.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Makes sense. So
Second.
Okay. All in favor? I'll be aye. Opposed?
opposed.
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 And that's the reasoning.
Makes sense. Again, kind of new to us. I do just say thank you. I know that I think everyone on this is all in agreement that we want to do everything we can for our veterans, and I think it's a lovely gesture, an idea. But as I've said previously, I put a lot of work into that military park, and it's not necessarily a personal thing, but I feel like that was my commitment with all the fine people that I worked with to create that park that was designed in a specific way. And I'm just concerned about making any changes to it and what that could lead to in the future and setting precedent. I know that's a common
Yeah,
thing.
we can't, yeah, as I've said before, we can't obligate future boards to what they do, so,
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So that's,
All
I
right.
just wanted to say that.
All right. So we're moving on to the next.
Okay. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the following organization or groups to use village property on the dates and time authorized.
Excuse me, could we have order, please? Yes, please. I do have one amendment to one of them.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Paragon St. Mark's Art Show, Great Lawn, 524 to 525. Hampton Vintage Car Show, Great Lawn, 628. West Hampton Free Library Concerts, Gazebo, Thursdays, 7/2 to 9/2. West Hampton Free Library Yoga, Rogers Beach, various dates and times. West Hampton Beach Free Library Pilates, Rogers Beach, 7/7 to 8/25, Monday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. West Hampton Free Library Kids on the Green, Village Green, Tuesday, 7/1 to 8/26, 5:30 to 6:30. West Hampton Free Library Monday Movies, Great Lawn, 7/7 to 8:25 dusk, 2 hours. Joe Koziar's 5K approved route through the village, 7/19, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. West Hampton Beach Project, Calucci, Great Lawn, 7/26, 7/27, 6:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Hampton Flea Market, Village Green, 6/29, 7/27, 9/14, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. West Hampton War Memorial Ambulance Association, Village Green, 7/12/25.
Okay, on this one, I would like to amend it and the board to realize we're just holding the date.
Okay.
They have some specific items that they have to resolve yet for their plans, but the date and the time we are holding for them.
Okay,
So as specific portions of the event have yet to be worked out.
okay.
Okay.
West Hampton Library Shakespeare in the Park Gazebo, 7/21/25, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
And that's it.
That's it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'll keep up with the opposed thing just for consistency.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the following semi-monthly salaries effective June 1st, 2025. Village Clerk Treasurer, $4,708.33. Deputy Clerk, $3,833.33. DPW Superintendent, $5,260.79. Building Inspector, $5,364.01. Secretary to the Mayor, $2,619.66. Police Chief commensurate with PBA contract retroactively.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
resolved that Thomas Betcherman, Elizabeth Linfit, and Jenny Beck are hereby appointed as election inspectors, and each are to perform the official duties of the village general election to be held on Friday, June 20th, 2025, and are to be compensated at a rate of $20 per hour, to be funded from GL account A1450.1, elections personal service.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the following budget transfers. From GL account code A1420.401 litigation to GL account code A1420.1 legal personal services in the amount of $30,000. From GL account code A1620.999 building repair reserves to GL account code A1620 .421, repairs to municipal building, and the amount of $26,500. From GL account code A1680.2, central data processing equipment, to GL account code A1680.400, and the amount of $42,000. From GL account code A9010.81, New York State Retirement, to GL account code A1910, in the amount of $10,000. From GL account code A5110.2, equipment, to GL account code A5182.425, traffic lights, in the amount of $35,000. From GL account code A5110.2, equipment, to GL account code A7310.2, beach equipment, in the amount of $21,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the purchase of a 40-foot storage container for the police department not to exceed $4,100 paid out of A3120.2 equipment.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
resolved that the 2023-2024 fiscal year annual financial statements be prepared by Sadie Levine and Jaco for the Village of West Hampton Beach and Village of West Hampton Beach Justice Court are hereby accepted.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
resolved that Andrew Alvarado, Alexander Bancroft, Brandon Banzin Zuda, Ronnie Brumsey, Aiden Collins Ariset, Franklin Garcia, Jeff Jeanette, Christina Langhorn, Braden Mackey, Declan Morris, and Lucas Simoncolis are hereby appointed as seasonal traffic controller officers to be compensated at a rate of $20.50 per hour effective May 15th, 2025, contingent upon successful completion of final interviews, a background check, and any additional requirements as determined by the chief of police. Salaries to be funded from GL account code A3120.109, traffic control officers, PS, with an increase of $1 per hour effective June 1st, 2025.
Second.
Favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints the following personnel to the positions attached at Rogers and Lashley Beaches for 2025 season to be funded from A7310.100 beach managers, A7310.101 lifeguards, and A7310.103 beach attendants, with an increase of $1 per hour minimum wage adjustment and 50 cents per hour for returning lifeguards and beach managers, and 25 cents an hour for returning attendants effective June 1st, 2025.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby appoints Michael Rowinski as dockmaster to be compensated at a rate of $20.50 per hour effective May 5th, 2025, an increase of $1 per hour effective June 1st, 2025.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that Steven Stetzinger and Anthony Sunderman are hereby appointed as seasonal laborers at a rate of $20.50 in the Department of Public Works to work as assigned by the Public Works Superintendent effective May 1st, 2025, and May 16th, 2025, to be funded from GL account A5110.103 seasonal part-time with an increase of $1 per hour effective June 1st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Whereas the authorized representative in Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach desires to secure the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach's obligation to provide workers' compensation benefits as applicable through participation in group self-insurance program of which the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach will be a member. The authorized representative of the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach duly convened in regular session does hereby resolve pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of Section 53-A of New York State Workers' Compensation Law and other applicable provisions of law and regulations thereunder as follows. Section 1, the authorized representative, hereafter representative of the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach, does hereby resolve to secure the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach's obligation to provide workers' compensation benefits as applicable through participation in group self-insurance plan of which is Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach will be a member. Section 2, the representative of the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach does hereby resolve to become a member of Public Employer Risk Management Association, Inc., a workers' compensation group self-insurance program for local governments and other public employers of the state of New York. Section 3, in order to effect the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach's membership in said group self-insurance program, the authorized officer of the Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach is hereby authorized to execute and enter into Public Employer Risk Management Association's Workers' Compensations Program Agreement, annexed hereto as Exhibit A, on behalf of Incorporated Village of West Hampton Beach. Section 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately for coverage effective June 1st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, opposed, and I would like to thank Denise for working on this. This is going to save us some money. So it's a very good thing.
Thanks, Denise.
Denise.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize refund payment of 2024-25 tax year property taxes in the amount of $1,209.37 to the property owner specified below as a settlement of small claims as ordered by the New York State Supreme Court.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the purchase of a 24-inch by 20-inch bronze plaque for the windmill at a cost of $2,550 paid out of H7400 Windmill Restoration Project.
Second?
Should probably just change that to plaque.
I know.
It says plague.
Oh.
Um,
Thought one and not the other one.
It's
I had to second.
it's minutia, but we could be approving
Thank you.
something bad.
Bronze plate.
Doesn't sound very good.
Spending money on that.
Yeah, it's not good.
Okay, thank you. As corrected, yes. Did somebody second this?
Yeah. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Before we start the public comment section, I would like to mention to the board that our attorney has asked for an executive session to discuss litigation issue. So, other than that,
Pass a resolution to
I'm
go,
sorry.
pass a resolution to go into executive session after the close of the meeting.
Okay,
Pass a motion, yeah.
so, you wanna-
But somebody should second your we'll treat.
okay, I'll make that motion.
That was
and
the
then
motion.
Someone second.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. So with that being done, that brings us to the public comment section of our meeting. Would anyone wish to speak?
Hello again. My name is Kara Back. I live on Jennifer's Path in Quiog. So I'm here tonight to speak to you once again about the village lease for the property at 172 South Country Road, Quiog. It's been 2 months and since the public hearing, and I didn't see a resolution on today's agenda to consider the ratification of the lease. So for the record, I want to ask you, do you have any intention of rendering a decision after that public hearing?
And I advise the board not to discuss this matter because of the litigation that you, your husband, and various other people commenced. Hopefully they'll take my advice and not discuss it publicly.
So was the public hearing that you held a disingenuous attempt on your behalf to curtail some of the claims in the litigation? If so, you should know that this approach may ultimately backfire, as the failure to render a decision following a public hearing exposes the board to additional litigation. Specifically, it opens the door to potential Article 78 proceeding, which can compel the board to issue a determination. This will further escalate the legal costs that you're trying to avoid and further undermine the public trust in transparency and integrity of the process. I urge you all to weigh these implications seriously and to take action to fulfill your obligation under the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Sure. If you would go to the podium, please. Oh,
I'll speak loud. I
okay, go ahead.
want to thank you for your decision on Hammond and Memorial. Many of you know Hammond was very important to this town, to this county, to this state, the service in World War II. And also, he has been a mentor for me for many years. And when it came up that we were going to build this thing, I was over the moon. And as you know, I spent a lot of time, a lot of my money, American Legion, everybody kicked in. So when this thing came up, the only question I had that Mr. Donahue made this proposal was what names did he want to put on this memorial? And we never got an answer.
Well, that evolved as the discussions, we had public meetings on this, and we had other discussions, and Kim and I discussed it with a couple of other representatives of veterans and things, and it evolved that no names would be placed on it. Initially, he was trying to recognize World War II veterans that were residents of Southampton Town when when they got enlisted or drafted into the military during World War II. That was his intent. But then the concern with verifying and vetting those names, it could be an overwhelming task to verify and vet all those names and make sure that they were legitimate. So it evolved that we were not going to include any names and just have, that's why this resolution read that it would be just the quote from the Roosevelt speech with the stone being dedicated on the anniversary of the armistice, 80th anniversary of the armistice, for all veterans, not just World War II, but for all veterans, and the dedication at that armistice date. That's why I'm a little perplexed at the resistance of the veterans community to enhance the Veterans Park and enhance the recognition of our veterans, but the vote went the way the vote went, and that's fine.
Many of you may not know, we have at the cemetery in West Hampton monuments that go back to the Civil War
Yes.
and the Revolutionary War, as well as World War II. That was why I was asking for the names, because
Right.
we have all the World War II veterans that were there. And some years ago, a woman approached me after Memorial Day and said, my husband's name's not on the list. Give me his name. Fricke came out and put his name on the list. We would be more than happy to get behind Mr. Donahue to put something up at the cemetery. We have a little more room there. That would be wonderful. But to diminish what we have,
Oh, I didn't see, personally, I didn't see it as a diminishment. I saw it as an enhancement, but that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you for your decision,
Okay,
and I salute you all. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Clapping is driving me nuts.
First of all, I want to say to the board, you made a good decision tonight, okay? I know it was well-intended with this memorial, but this is not the right spot for it. We take away what's from there. That's a beautiful spot. Many people enjoy it, and so do the 50 ducks and their ducklings that walk by there every day. It's very nice. Secondly, in March, I was here regarding the solar farm, and I spoke, actually made the news. And my point was that it was my point was it's gonna be, it's an environmental disaster waiting to happen. Those are my exact words, and we know, and I said, it's an environmental disaster waiting to happen, and we know that. And shortly thereafter, maybe it was 3 weeks later, there was the fires in the Pine Barrens. And those, yes, our brave firefighters stopped that fire from coming south. But that fire, in another day, on another day with different winds, starting in a different location, would have hit that solar farm. And those 13 acres of panels, those materials, if there's batteries or not, doesn't matter. That thing would have burned like nobody's business. That's not the right spot for it. It's surrounded by woods and kindling and a dry summer and a dry fall, a dry spring, and we are in a lot of, not you, we are in a lot of trouble here. Yes, there's a place for solar farms. I was up on my way to the Jitney in Calverton, and there was a farm that used to be there, and they have acres of solar panels. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's not near anything, it's not near homes, it's not near recreation. It's in an industrial area that's flat. There's no trees around it. There's no chance for that. There's always a chance. There's a much slimmer chance of that being a disaster than we're asking for over there. And it's just the wrong spot for it. And this company has no assets. Their lease allows them to walk away, and this village is gonna be stuck with that. That's it. But again, you made a good decision tonight, and we appreciate that.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, just give me a minute.
Oh, sir, okay.
Next. I don't want to fall here and then sue you. I have
What?
I'm okay. A couple of things. I was going to speak about the CVE thing too. Only that I was here at the March meeting when you said we will render a decision about ratifying it within 30 days, and that will be at the April meeting. And we really should hold you to your word. That's what I think. This could drag on forever. Anyway, I have to ask a question about the salary schedules. Is this over and above the budget that we just approved? What,
That
why are
was
these,
anticipated.
huh?
It was anticipated in that budget.
So there are just 6 people whose salaries now are increased? Is
Yes.
that it?
Yeah.
Is this considered a raise for all of them?
Yes. The fiscal year begins in June, that's why the
I
effective
know,
date is June.
I know that. I
Uh,
have a
the
budget
other-
that handles that.
Yes, exactly. And it was accommodated in the budget, or anticipated in the budget, I should say. The other employees, a majority of them are covered by union contracts, and they will be getting raises by their union contract, again, effective June 1st.
That doesn't make sense to me. That if this is in the budget and it's already taken care of through the budget, why is there a resolution now just for 6 people? I don't get it.
Well, the budget.
It sounds like it's over and above the
accommodates
budget.
Amount of money for a block. So now we're identifying how that block of money is broken up.
So prior to doing the budget, you don't really evaluate all of the employees? You have a block, fine, I understand that. Why isn't that part of the budget process that it now comes up later? I don't understand how you're doing it.
Because we have a block of money that we associate with these anticipated increases, but then the increases have to be negotiated as well. We don't
So-
dictate, yeah, so it's a negotiations process as well,
After the budget is done.
yes.
That,
Yeah.
I've
Well,
been,
that happens with union contracts as well. We have.
so these are non-union.
These are, correct.
How many non-union people are in the building?
I think.
Quick,
this
add 'em up,
covers them. I
add 'em
think
up.
all of it. Yeah. These are all the non-union people that we have. All the rest of the people that we have in our employ currently are union.
Are you sure about that?
The other one from it's
Yeah,
there. but
because we have the
this-
white collar, we have the blue collar, and we have police. We have three different union units.
Well, several months ago, when you put an increase in for 2 employees, they were non-union and that's why you did it.
They
One of them
were,
is not on this list.
they were at that time, that was a promotion and one of the employees was, actually the union membership is dictated by their title. So this person was getting a promotion with a different title, so was taken out of the union at that point, that individual.
Sounds like fuzzy math to me, but
Well,
one other thing, and I ask this like periodically. When are you going to have Doris tear the building down? It's such an eyesore to drive into this village and see it there. And the last time I asked about it, like several months ago, we're working with them. We know they're gonna tear it down, so why not do it now? Hmm?
there are implications or reasons that they do not want to tear it down, and that's because they want to maintain their flow
Blow up.
for septic, because they want to essentially, well, we're thinking, we don't know for sure, we have no plans definitively. We would anticipate that the owners, current or new, would want to put a restaurant there. And to put a restaurant there, you need to have a certain amount of flow. And to maintain their flow, they have to maintain that site as it is right now. Actually, the footprint, we have said that if Mr. Hammond is here, he can correct me if I'm wrong. The footprint, we've done all we can to make it so they can tear down the building and retain that footprint. But
So
it's the
then they
health,
should tear.
it's the health department is the holdup, and we have
Let me
no.
add to that, Mayor.
Go ahead.
We can only force a tear down of a building if it's a safety problem.
I know that.
And I don't know anything about the building. It looks terrible. I agree with you. I pass it a few times a day, but it doesn't look like it's falling down. And we need an engineer report to say that it's falling down. And Brad knows more about that than I do. I'm not sure we could force it to be torn down at this point.
Well, when I asked about it several months ago, the answer from the board was, we're working closely with the owners. And
I don't know anything
we
about
think we can get this taken down, so,
We are hopeful that we can get
okay.
them to move on it, but
And Joan, I don't know how many of the board members chimed in, but I'll take responsibility for saying that, that was me. And it's the truth.
No, it was you.
Yeah, and I've reached out, I've spoken with them several times. You know, even dating 10 years back, you know, we've always had this hit list of things that we want to do one at a time, you know, take care of that property, this property, and that's been on it since then. And then, as you know, there are hiccups with the man passing away and blah, blah, blah. He was pretty close to actually developing it. He's a very reputable developer. Left it with the family as he passed away unexpectedly, and they just don't really have a heck of a lot of interest in it. They're not from the area. Very, very nice people, but they don't know what to do with it. They're looking for a tenant so that maybe they can develop it. And, you know, I've just tried to stay in contact with them to encourage them to move forward, because I've probably heard 200, 300 times how much of an eyesore it is, including me passing it every day and just shaking my head and being embarrassed.
disagrees that it's an eyesore. There is no disagreement.
I really wish you could do something.
I do too. I'm trying as best I can, but obviously only so much I could do, but I'm trying to just encourage them to forge ahead, find a tenant, build it to suit. Yeah.
At the budget hearing meeting, I asked about the huge amount of money being put aside for legal fees. And
Yes.
it's $205,000. What is the switch from 30,000 from one account to the other? Is this for a special reason?
Are you talking about the
Yeah,
budget?
you just did it on a resolution. You moved it from, I think it's the third, I don't. You did it, Ralph. You can find it. Come on.
Legal personnel services in the amount of $30,000.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Going from one account to another. Is there something special?
Only the fact that we encountered more expenses than we anticipated in last year's budget, so we're having to shift. That's what these budget transfers are all about. Okay, so we're just shifting money that we didn't expect to spend, but did have to spend, and now we're moving it from one cubby hole to another to balance the budget
I
at the end
see
of the
that.
year.
Okay. You'll be very happy. That's all I have.
Anyone else wish to speak?
What Ann just said. You mentioned that you now have to, you have to spend more money on legal fees. Is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay,
we
so
are encountering more legal fees, yes.
I'm assuming that a part of those legal fees is the upcoming lawsuit that you're facing about the CVE. If you didn't ratify that contract, maybe a lot of those fees would then not be necessary because maybe the lawsuit could be resolved.
We've said we can't comment on that. at
I,
this
I don't expect you to comment, but I'm offering you an opinion that if you didn't ratify the contract, I can't ask the other side, but maybe that lawsuit won't happen and we won't have to go to court on June 15th at 9 o'clock. Is it 9 o'clock? At 9:30 on June 15th.
Thank you.
To say thank you very much. With the repurposing of the Arma Hammond Military Park at the yacht base. And I have to tell you, this has been extraordinarily distressing to my family and to myself because, you know, I put together all the paperwork and went down memory lane, reading all the beautiful articles that were written by the Southampton Press summarizing the meaning behind the dedication to the park. My grandfather was, you know, I'm biased, I'm clearly biased. He raised me from an infant, but he was an extraordinary man, and many people in this community appreciated him very much in many different ways. And he helped so many people do so many things that we never even knew about. After he passed away, people came up and told me that he helped them network to get jobs, and there were many of them. He helped people get loans and get into military service and get services that they needed as veterans. And he just was the founder of so many different organizations, and the list is quite extensive. And I was going to refresh that for some of you because you're younger and you probably didn't know him, or maybe you knew some of one of the things that he was involved in. But you know, he also lived to be almost 98 years old, and he was committed to every organization that he was involved in. So he was a life member of every organization, or he had, you know, done service for 50, 60, 70 years, depending on what it was. Um, and it was everywhere. It wasn't just in this community. It was in our greater community throughout Southampton town. He was a founding member of the Anti-Bias Task Force. I mean, he really served in so many different capacities. So it was really kind of heart-wrenching for me to find out about what was being proposed by, I help with veteran services in my office in Town Hall. And a veteran called to ask me about how would they get their name on one of these monuments. The original monument was a 15-foot wide, 5-foot high behind the yacht basin facilities. And when I saw that, I dismissed it. I didn't think it was the greatest place to put something like that. It would block the view of the beautiful vista you have at the marina. And you would look at it almost every day driving out of your driveway. But I moved on because I figured you weren't interfering with the park that was dedicated to my grandfather. And then I happenstance in November, after those articles were in August, and the depiction of the location was behind the bathrooms. But I found out later that when I looked into your resolutions, that location had changed,
Well,
but the
there
public
were
knew
two-
nothing about that.
Yeah,
Let me
two.
finish, please.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
public knew nothing about this. I have it all documented. I watched your videos. I have all the resolutions. I know the timeline and I put one together. And that article came out after you had already changed the location. So it was not fair to the public to think that it was being located in one location when you actually moved ahead. But that being said, I have just a snippet here that I'm just going to read because, I've been in government a very long time. And it's really good to have outreach sometimes. And sometimes it really is a responsibility of government boards to do so. And I'll read this to you. The park project was sponsored by the Village of West Hampton Beach and the local American Legion, but it was a community effort that made it possible. Numerous supporters, including Village Board members Rob Rubio, Ryan Tiemann, VFW Post 5350, Jeff Bott, Marcus Stinchey, and others either volunteered their time or donated money or services to make the project a reality. That creates a public-private partnership with that organization. They raised a lot of money in the community to construct that park. I have photos of Paul Haynes sitting there directing the monuments being lowered onto their bases and making sure everything was perfect. And he spent an inordinate amount of time. Tom Hadlock was the commander at the time. They asked me to be on the committee. I wasn't necessarily gung ho about this park. This was not my idea. It came to me. Paul called me up and I was already kind of bereft from losing a couple family members in a row. And I was like, no. And Paul's like, listen, we're doing this with or without you. So get on board. We want you on the committee. And I was like, okay. And I sat, 2 years, 2017, Brian, right? And then Brian took charge and he was amazing and we appreciated all of the efforts everybody did. So when this came about and I looked on the website to try and see if I could find a number for someone to reach out to Mr. Donahue, there was no contact information in that newspaper article whatsoever about how to get your name on that, which I thought was kind of interesting. But also at the same time, I saw a monument now in a new picture that had been added to the 27 East article that was right at the entrance of the park. And it was supposed to be 5 foot high and it was up against one of the benches. And I was like, wow, that's how I found out. And then I called the American Legion. I called the VFW. I said, do you know about this? Nobody knew anything about it. And this is a veterans monument being proposed by somebody. Nobody even called the local VFW that has their post here to ask what the veterans thought about this honor, about what you were going to do. No one reached out to the American Legion and to say, hey, we know you put all this money into this and all these people donated landscaping and designs and everything else. No one was contacted to even discuss it, which is really just not great. Because it's one thing if you don't take money and you do it yourself, then you don't really have a responsibility to go back to the center and the stakeholders. But once you do that, you're kind of obligated to include them in a discussion going forward. So when you say that that decision tonight is not held, the next board potentially is not bound by that, I find
no,
that a
future
little
board,
upsetting.
future
And I'm going to tell, I know the rules. I've been in government a long time. I know what that means. And I also find that a little disturbing because when you dedicate a park, saying what you just said indicates to me that do I have to worry about having to come back here again and have this conversation? My family should not be subjected to this. Naming a park after somebody shouldn't be a 5-year plan. Are you going to rename Maria's Park in another few years if some board gets upset? I mean, honestly, Maria Del Ben's Park, who's next? Like my grandfather made a significant contribution to this village and I found it really upsetting that I even had to come here and explain this. And I so appreciate the 3 of you voting no and realizing that that's the right thing to do here. It's just not the place for this. And when I first did this, there was no renderings, there was no nothing about what the park would look like. And there was an email that you wrote, Mayor, that
Well, that-
No,
I
no,
did-
no, no,
that's
no, no,
not my
no.
rendering.
Okay. No,
No,
I
Sandy,
drew
that's-
this.
yes,
Nope,
you
and I
did.
drew this from an email you sent to the VFW commander that said that the
Right.
first two would be World War II, and then you anticipated the rest of the conflicts would follow.
Could be
This is
something,
what that would
but
have looked
that's-
like with the 5-foot high, the 5-foot wide, 5-foot high monuments that were proposed at the time. This thing has evolved over time.
Yes.
It's gone from a
Yes,
15-foot
there were
to this,
several
to that,
conversations.
the other, I know. But at one
Sure.
point, this is what it would have looked like.
Let me
And
see.
I lost my mind because this was gonna encapsulate that beautiful park that we all designed and built
We had
into
you
something
come
like
talk to
this,
me
without a rendering or any discussion. And in all fairness, that was just not right to all of us. It was quite offensive.
Let me assure
So-
you that I did not offend anything to offend anyone. I thought, I thought this was an ongoing conversation.
You call it the military park. You don't even mention his name in the resolutions or anything else. It's like
That's
it's,
because it was dedicated as a military appreciation park in honor of him and that's what was in the resolution. Okay, all right.
but, it's just, it's
okay.
just, in all fairness.
All right, I
think we've
apologize for
been
any
through this for
miscommunication.
6 months, and it's been I've lost a lot of sleep over this. My family has been distressed about it, and it's just upsetting that I have to rally. I could have filled this room and then some, but I just wanted to get the stakeholders in the room. So I appreciate,
you.
how this turned out.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Good.
One more. Well, I assume one more. Go ahead. We can keep.
Good evening. I'm John Lynch. I'm with Lynch and Back. We're the attorneys who are representing the petitioners against the village in connection with the solar lease with the CVE. I actually wasn't even planning to talk, but I thought one or 2 points just to make. Because when you were talking about future boards having to be stuck with some decisions that might have been made, the lease, and I asked you last time if you all read the lease, you see what it is that the village is getting into with this lease. That's a real permanent decision. That's a 35-year, I think it's 35, 40-year lease on that, which is going to, I won't be alive when that thing's still going, and a lot of us might not be, Kim's young, she'll be here, But that's a permanent decision that's really going to affect other boards, as to how they're going to deal with the problems that's going to be caused, that we pointed out regarding that lease. We just think obviously it's very bad for us who live right next to it. And I don't think anybody here on the board, honestly, they don't have to say anything, but honestly would say they would not want that next to their houses or near their children or anybody else on that part. And I think you have to think, and I know you have an executive session and you're going to be talking about litigation. And we did see that this was not going to be, there was no going to be a decision on ratification. We talked about 2 months, and not that I was expecting, because I'm a lawyer and I think the worst of things, and that's kind of my job to do on that. But now it's going to start getting more expensive. It's going to start being more of a fight. I had to put in notices for depositions because I was hoping maybe with the ratification, if you were going to decide that this lease is bad for the village and figure out some way to get us out of this lease with CVE, which I'm happy to help because I think I see things in the lease that can be done. But if it's going to be, this is just another legal ploy to try to avoid the open meeting issues, my opinion, it's not going to work. My opinion is what Karen said. You're opening yourself up for other litigation, on this matter, which again, you'll have your own legal advice in connection with this from Mr. Angel and Mr. Pasca and his firm. But right now, I had to put notices of deposition to the self-mayor, and some other, even Mr. Angel, on that. And maybe I'll have to subpoena Mr. Angel. We'll talk about that later with Mr. Angel. But that's what time costs. That's where money starts costing when you start going into discovery. And when you start doing it, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take hours. No one wants to do that. I don't want to sit across from you, Brian, or anybody else asking questions about this. I like to see if this can be worked out, that this does not take place, and find some way for a solution, because again, other boards, this is a permanent decision that's being made. And just to reiterate, the village is going to continue to own this property. It's not being sold. The liability stays. And when you look at that What happens if there was a fire we talked about, or if something else that takes place, that someone gets injured or some other matter? The village is going to get sued on it, and you're gonna turn to CVE, and CVE is going to say something in a foreign language because it's a foreign corporation, and it's gonna be basically though, no mas or nothing or whatever. They are not gonna be find themselves responsible for it because the only asset they have, and they created LLCs and they created another LLC to own that LLC, and I'm sure there's another LLC down the line. And to try to find somebody who's going to be liable down the line, who take responsibility, that's not gonna happen. That's gonna be a problem. Who's gonna hold the bag? The village on that. So I think you really have to have some serious consideration as to the implications of this lease. I know it wasn't the intention. I know there was all good intentions onto it, but the same thing with Sunday was mentioning that she wasn't advised or they, and I don't know the issues there, but that basically no one was told what was kind of going on. And that's part of the problem here. And I think that's maybe why we opened up to, ratify the lease. We had no idea. When I say we, the neighbors, the people who live right there on Jennifer's Path, no idea as to what was taking place until there was some notice that this big industrial commercial project is going to be built right behind the homes, and it's going to take 3 years to do it on that. You have to look at the lease, and you can see that the village, CVE's got an out. They can get out of this now. Next, I think by March, they can walk away. The village can spend all this money on litigation, fighting us, and then they can walk away and say, okay, we're gonna walk away from the project. You wasted money on that. And even if we lose at the village section, if we lose here, we're gonna be suing with the town because we have problems with the town statute. We will continue on that. This, it's gonna be a wasted effort by, and wasted time and wasted money by a lot of people. But we have no choice. We have to do it. You have a choice. Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Layla Massey. I live at 3 Jennifer's Path. I just felt like I have to say something because directly affects me, solar installation. It would be 100 feet from my backyard. The solar panels, the transformers, the batteries, if they're put in there, for God knows how many years, right? It's made a lot of stress and anxiety for my life too, since this was, I guess, put into effect and us not knowing anything about it. And we've been fighting it ever since. And I just feel like the neighbors have to voice their opinions about this because we're directly affected. Nobody else is. As I said before, who would want this in their backyard? Would you? And I constantly say that to you. I did confront Brian at one point at Flora when I saw him there. And he was very condescending to me. I don't know if you remember or not, but he said, you live near an airport, near the junkyard. Who are you to complain? Look where you live. Basically, he was saying to me, I'm the wrong person to talk to. Go talk to Southampton. This is how I was treated by the person who brought this to the village. It's unacceptable. And please do the right thing. Please.
Do I need to? I need to do that? All right. It's unreal. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Shamed.
Okay, that being said, we'll move into executive session. Thank you for coming. And see you later.